Today, we're joined by Andrew Wan, concertmaster of the Montreal Symphony Orchestra, but also a longtime guest here with Seattle Chamber Music Society. Thanks so much for taking some time to chat with us here on Zoom.
Really nice to see you.
Yeah. First of all, everyone is doing well. Everyone's staying healthy right now for you, I hope.
Yeah, thank you for asking.
Great.
I think they're calling Montreal the epicenter of Canada, but we're all in this together. It's a truly global experience. So what we're experiencing is probably not so unique right now.
Yeah, no, it's an unfortunate reality and situation, but I'm glad to hear at least everyone there is doing well for you and all that. That's great news. This is obviously a very interesting time. I mean, everything is upended, but I've seen you've done kind of a couple of unique projects online, and I thought I would, jump right in and talk about those. The first one was a couple of weeks ago, I guess, when this first kind of got started, and you did a violin sonata by Leclerc with your counterpart at Toronto, Jonathan Crow. Can you tell us kind of how that came about and what that was like to be separated, but still being able to play together?
Yeah, we did a few tests. So we tried to do it through Zoom or FaceTime, and the lag is just not, I mean, this is pretty good right now. I feel like there's minimal lag, but when you're trying to react to someone and try to be fluid and flexible, it's just not like being next to them. So we came up with a solution where we kind of practiced the timing, and then he recorded it. And then I put my cell phone next to my iPad, and then I displayed his video on my iPad, and then I recorded with my cell phone. And I was just watching him play, and then we synced it up using iMovie, which actually was kind of fun because, I think there's been the other way to do it is to have a click track. But what was really nice about this, and I'm sure a lot of other people are doing it this way now, is that there is still, even though it was a pre-recorded take, this element of collaboration and fluidity, right? Like we have this kind of opportunity to kind of make music in kind of as normal way as possible and try to react to what you see and hear. So that was kind of nice. It was really nice and kind of a nice reprieve from, we made that maybe a few days after things started shutting down. What was really funny is I was with him just 4 or 5 days prior to that. We were in a string quartet mini tour. We started in upstate New York, and we drove to Ontario, and then the next day, in 3 days, the third concert was in just outside of Pittsburgh. And so it was about 20 hours in the car, and all taking turns reading the news and driving and getting increasingly exercised and activated by this like onslaught of ramping up of the news. And so we got to a point where we realized that things were probably going to be different. And by the time I played that last concert, it was at Teal College outside of Pittsburgh. I remember that second half of that concert having this bittersweet feeling, thinking, wow, this is probably going to be my last concert like this for, at least a few weeks or a few months. And the sweet part of it came when I felt like the four of us just kind of recognized this and just kind of went for it in a different way. And I don't want to quantify that in a way that doesn't seem authentic, but it was quite different from our concerts, which are great. I love playing with those guys. But it was kind of, there was like a moment playing second violin in the second half that, if I was going to the nth degree on a regular day to showcase this one gesture, I went, N+2 or something like that. And maybe it was, if I listened to a recording of it, maybe it was too much, but it was just kind of taking stock of what was important. And in that moment, it was trying to do something kind of collaborative and meaningful and, as profound as it possibly could be. And it was actually a lot of fun. And I actually look back to that one performance with a lot of fondness.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. It feels like, we've had conversations with a few of our musicians here now, and it felt like in some ways there, it sounds like you got a chance to know that it was your last performance where, some of the musicians, it's like they were expecting to go to their next gig, and it was just sort of canceled or postponed indefinitely. And so it's sort of nice you get this one last chance, I guess, if you will, until we're all able to come out and get together again to express yourself, knowing, you know, what was going to be coming for you guys. In a way, that seems kind of like a nice bookend, almost, if you will.
Yeah,
So,
nice and kind of like comma. And then I just, can you imagine that first concert where we're back together, or
oh,
that
I know.
first sports
Yeah.
event? It's going to be outrageous. And it can't come soon enough, but you know, this is an opportunity to kind of regroup and just kind of reevaluate what's important. And it, I'm sure everyone feels this way. You know, we realize what is super important, and you know, it's our health and it's the health of people that are around us. And it's funny that the most um, useful thing you can do is kind of stay away from people, right? Like,
The thing you crave the most in a lot of ways.
yeah, and I didn't quite, you know, put that in those kind of terms before. I realized that, you know, when you think of kind of a catastrophe happening in your life, you don't think, oh, I can't just go to the grocery store and just talk to that dude, you know, and
Yeah.
go play with that group where, even though I find that guy annoying, you know, I miss that very much.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. You know, that kind of leads into the second video that I saw that you made, which you kind of did double duty, where it looked like you had to be your own accompanist there for a Paganini piece. Can you talk about kind of what inspired you to do that, and how tricky was it? You know, I mean, obviously we all know you as a very talented violinist, of course, but how are your piano chops? What was that experience like?
Um, so I don't call myself a pianist. I took 3 years of piano lessons starting in grade 10, or as you Americans say, 10th grade. And, you know, like I always, it was always something that I wanted to be able to do. And it was always something that I wanted to be able to take pride in, but never found an opportunity to do. And someone sent me a video of another SCMS favorite, Augustine Hadalick. He had this just terrific video of him playing Rachmaninoff vocalese, and just, it was just so beautifully shot, and playing interpretation as usual was just really beautiful. But I just immediately thought, I want to do that. I want to be able to play with somebody who I missed playing with somebody. And, you know, there's only so many times I can go bug Jonathan in Toronto. I mean, we have a couple of other things coming out in the next little while, but
Great.
I use this as an opportunity to kind of reframe how I would play that piece, you know. And, you know, the first couple of takes, so I recorded the violin part first, and then trying to accompany myself or collaborate with myself. I was thinking, why am I making that timing on the violin when I clearly have like this momentum that makes more sense in the piano? And it still wasn't ideal. I still released it anyways, because McGill, where I teach, they were asking for videos to kind of boost morale, and I thought it was just kind of a fun thing. And I think I wrote a little blurb saying, you know, I've come to really appreciate all the pianists I've ever played with, and it's totally true. And you know, it's just a thing that's been a really nice source of kind of comfort for me, and you know, just kind of flexing like a muscle that I haven't touched for a long time. And you know, I'm going to continue to work at the piano, and it's been annoying for Sarah. Just, she's like, why do you have to keep on playing the same thing? I was like, because I don't do this often. I know James Ennis is a ridiculous pianist, and so I didn't realize Augustine was, and Yura Lee, I've heard her play piano too. So it's something that, you know, I've made that kind of one of the projects that I'm doing.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, master of course one instrument, but you know, that's just, it's, I think it probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it just seems like it would bring, as you say, sort of a deeper understanding of how a piece is structured and framed, and you know, where it moves, or how it does what it does.
It was there was a lot of utility in that. And you know, the other thing that I actually, this another blessing for this during this time, is that I bought like a external condenser mic for my iPhone. You can just plug it directly into the lightning port, and that allows you to play at your regular dynamic. And now I've been recording myself with startling regularity, and I've just kind of just addressed some things that, you know, that I probably wouldn't have caught if I was just using my own like real-time ears. So it's been really nice to kind of address my playing that way too, you know.
You mentioned, so the video was for McGill, where you teach. Are you still teaching right now? And if you are, how is the remote learning going? You know, have you found any benefits, or are there particular challenges, obviously, to not being in the room with your students?
Yeah, so all the things that you might imagine being challenging or irritating are there, but the school actually made a decision right away when things shut down to take 2 weeks to just come up with like some kind of actionable plan, so that we had McGill, it's a large community, and then the Schulich School of Music, and then within that, the performance faculty. And they made the decision that since there was no equitable way to make sure everyone got lessons in the same fashion, and you know, how are we going to have a jury, you know, in someone's living room, and how can they, like a pianist, what if they don't have a piano at home, that sort of thing. They decided to forego having lessons and juries and exams, and there are different circumstances for graduating students and non-graduating students, but they encouraged us, if we had the means and the time to do so, to still meet and encourage our students. And so I used this as an opportunity. I gave them the choice. I said, this is no longer a Schulich School of Music at McGill course. If you want to meet at this weekly time, that would give me motivation to, you know, put on pants and take a shower, but also, you know, like I care about what's the relationship that we've set up. And if you want to meet, let's do it. And it actually, I filled every day with at least 1 to 2 lessons.
That's great.
And it's funny, you know, when all this happened, you know, there was all that panic buying, people going to the stores and everything. And, you know, what struck me was, you know, like taking stock of our pantry and what we needed realistically, because we didn't want to be insane and buy, you know, 80 rolls of toilet paper, but, you know, kind of taking stock of my own emotions and what was important to me. And what is important to me is that connection. And it's important to me to see the progress of my students through. And so there has been a lot of benefits to it. And, you know, I just seeing someone else on the other side, like even, again, taking stock of what's important and taking inventory of our emotions, and then trying to, you know, set goals for ourselves that are like daily positive emotions, you know. But what we can do is, you know, address kind of, you know, those proximal goals and have a daily task where you're making some kind of positive impact.
Yeah, well, and I think the arts are really a thing that are getting a lot of people through this, you know, whether it's watching TV and movies, or it's listening to great recordings, or seeing, you know, these performances from musicians that they know and love that come out that give them just a little more hope. I mean, I think one other question I had, you know, this is just sort of for fun. Are there things that you're binge watching? Have you been reading any good books? Are you cooking a lot more? Like what's kind of the day look like for you right now?
Yeah, trying to make the day interesting when you have a routine, you know, because there's like a funny balance between, you need a routine not to just devolve into this kind of like whatever mess, but you also want to keep it interesting just to keep your brain active. But, you know, so we do have a kind of a routine. I wasn't much of a runner before, but now we're starting to do that. And that's been nice for me to just kind of see like a little bit of progression there, and, you know, just to let some steam out that way in the mornings. It's been really nice. I wasn't much of a cook before. I was really good at like obeying orders and you know, being a sous chef, and I was an excellent dishwasher, but I've kind of
roles.
yeah, no, I mean, I wasn't even good at it, but I was good at just, you know, doing my job without much complaint. But now you know, Sarah's busy with stuff that she needs to do. So I've kind of, you know, it's not like I wear this with a huge badge of honor, but I'm trying my best to cook. And we have these projects in the culinary world that are, you know, probably for most people quite basic, but for me represent small milestones. And amongst that is a little bit of baking. So I'm doing that New York Times no knead recipe. So we're eating a lot of white bread, EV. So I'm starting this new book. She's been trying to get me to read The Arenda by this Canadian author. And it's about Quebec in the 17th century. And it's by this author named Joseph Wharton. So I'm starting that. TV, we were watching, I don't know if I should say this, but it's pretty awesome. Tiger King on
Oh
Netflix.
yeah, you've succumbed
It is
to the Tiger King.
very, very entertaining, and I, I I love Curb Your Enthusiasm. So then there was that new season, so I'm
Yeah.
slowly making my way through that. And yeah, you know, I've consumed my fair share of the news, and that's, you know, that finding a way to just kind of balance that out, staying informed and not freak out too much has been part of my, you know, daily task too. But
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you spending some time this afternoon for you, this morning here on the West Coast. But we can't wait till we can all get together. Whenever it is that we can get together, we're very excited to have you come back out and hear you play for us. So.
anyway, you guys.